So the problem we are solving is how do you empower autonomy for complex environments, and the environments which are really unstructured, environments where it's difficult to understand what's going on, and our objective was, if you have to be completely autonomous in these environments, what kind of technologies need to be built. One of the markets where these needs are needed the most or benefits the user most is the defense market. Last 10 to 15 years, the technology advancements in the consumer electronics industry and other industries have far surpassed what's happened in the defense industry. And so our approach was, can you take the advances which have happened in the consumer electronics industry, and they have thrived on this entire fabless model and contract manufacturing system model. Can you take those advancements and can you bring it back to a traditional asset heavy industry like the defense industry? Seeing has not changed in the last 150, 200 years, right? And every system which is built today is built like a one-eyed imaging seeing system. And when you look at nature, nature has endowed a lot of creatures with multiple eyes. As humans, we have two eyes which give us binocular vision, which allow us to sense depth. Insects have thousands of eyes. And what this compound eye structure does is it gives you the ability to see the environment very clearly in a very small form factor. So the second thing we set out to solve was, can we change the way in which seeing is done today? Can we design optics, can we design electronics so that the burden of image formation is no longer just on the optics, but it's in a combination of optics, electronics and image processing. So essentially it's more a software defined approach to imaging as opposed to be a hardware centric approach. So from a technology point of view, our entire focus was, how do you create a new design paradigm for the imaging process? And one of the reasons why that's very important is, in the visible sensor space, which is where what human eyes operate in, which is your 400 to 700 nanometer or 400 to 900 nanometer, the sensor itself is very cheap because it's in abundance. But if you want to sense at night, where you need infrared or you need long wave infrared or mid wave infrared, the sensor material is very exotic and it becomes very expensive. So trying to do it like how traditional manufacturers do it today, by improving sensor quality or changing the optics quality or just changing the software, that's not sufficient. You have to change the way in which the entire image capture process happens. So at a technology level, at a business model level, we changed the manufacturing ecosystem. At a technology level, we have changed how the imaging processes happen. And those are the two big changes which we have done to this ecosystem right now. So our initial products was all about which area where can we create the maximum impact, and that was soldiers on the battlefield. And our early products are all geared towards, how do you help a soldier see better? What kind of devices do you give him so that he can understand what's happening around him better? Not only understand what's happening immediately around him, but what's happening around the corner, which he cannot see today. And based on what he understands, how can he have better decision making at his disposal? Our early products, and most of our products even today, are all focused upon imaging and image interpretation systems. We have redesigned our entire camera and imaging process to take advantages of the advances which have happened in consumer electronics, be it how an image has to be formed, be it how something has to be communicated, be it what kind of vision and machine learning processing has to happen on the hardware. All of this has been done in consumer electronics for a completely different application. But if you could structure your algorithms, you could structure your system to take advantage of that, then you can leverage all the people who are around it and benefit from that ecosystem. So our systems have evolved to the point right now where we can leverage every aspect of development in a consumer electronics ecosystem or a consumer electronics device and actually use it for a military system. Over the last 5 years, we've built a lot of systems. We have deployed these systems in about 25 countries. We built products which go all the way from what a soldier carries in his hand, weapon sights, helmet mounted systems, handheld thermal imagers, imaging systems which are there on battle tanks, armored fighting vehicles, on reconnaissance platforms like aerial aircrafts, on weapon stations. So we've been able to create a portfolio of products which address all needs of the military, right? And these systems have been validated in the field. They've been tested by multiple customers, multiple international, both in developed markets and in emerging markets. And we have had a sense of validation that these products are extremely competitive. They perform better than international players. They perform better than some of the best defense systems which exist in the world today. And there's been a validation of fundamental technology. So one of the things where we are moving towards is how do you integrate all the different imaging systems that you have built, whether it is systems which are there for the soldier, systems which are there for UAV, systems which are there for surveillance camera, systems which are there for armored fighting vehicles. How do you integrate the data from all of them? So one of the areas of focus for us right now is, as I mentioned, our vision is to empower autonomy. Now you can empower autonomy by doing localized processing at every system level, where the camera understands what's happening immediately around it, or you can benefit from data which comes from different sources. So one of the systems which we are focusing on building is this complete command and control system, where data is assimilated from all different devices that we make for a battlefield, and a holistic environment is created where all this data is ingested, we make sense of it, and it's pushed back to all the people who are related. So moving from just being a device manufacturer selling systems which go on to weapons, we are moving to a complete command and control integrator, where not only are our devices on the battlefield, but our software, which essentially can make better decisions, essentially empower better decision making, that's also on the battlefield. That's the next step we are going towards, aggregating all of this data. Now, once we finish this, we'll have devices on the field, devices on the move, devices which see short ranges, devices which see long ranges, a command and control architecture which understands the environment. This entire package is now relevant for a whole lot of different industries. So think about a mining industry, it's no different from a defense environment. The next one comes your smart cities, because ultimately what happens is, a smart city is no different from a defense application, where you have vehicles on the road, vehicles have sensors. A lot of the focus today is on how do you put a better radar, how do you put a better camera, how do you put different kinds of sensors on vehicles. But ultimately, it's not just going to be sensors on vehicles which are going to empower autonomy. It's a combination of sensors, and it's going to be a combination of street level intelligence, it's a combination of maps, all three things. So where we are going towards is everything which we have built and validated for the military industry. Eventually, we see in the next 5 to 7 years, we'll be able to move it to the transportation industry. So in 2010, Mumbai Angels, a bunch of friends, put in money. 2012 is when our first institutional capital we raised, and we raised it from a fund called Artemin Ventures. And one of the first investors, in our Series B, we got to the table was WRV Capital. And WRV Capital came in with a lot of background. The founders came with a lot of background in building deep technologies. They came with a lot of background in an imaging space. They came with background in contract manufacturing ecosystem. And so we said, look, this makes sense. It will be great to have someone like WRV as our lead investor for our Series B.